In today's video, we're going to take a look at some of the top prospects for the 2024 draft. We've talked a lot about some of the top defensemen, wingers, and centers, but one position we haven't really focused on yet and don't get a lot of attention in this year's crop of players is the goalies. So today, we're going to take a look at who I feel are the top 10 goalie prospects for the 2024 NHL draft. We'll talk about who these players are, where their junior careers are, and where they might place in this draft. We'll discuss that coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, today we're looking at some prospect goalies for the 2024 NHL draft. We've talked a lot about, some of the top players in this draft. Lots of defensemen in the top 10. We've looked at some of the top centers, the top wingers. But one kind of neglected position, if you will, for this draft class that hasn't seen a lot of attention through the media is the goaltenders. I don't think there's going to be any goalies picked super high. I think you're probably looking at the first goalie going probably at the earliest late second round, maybe into the third round even. But there's going to be at least 10, 15 goalies taken for sure, maybe a little bit more. In the later rounds, with 6, 7 round picks, sometimes teams will look at what's out there. If there's no other, sometimes they're like, okay, let's take an extra goalie. You can never have too many of those because you don't know how many of them are going to pan out. You got to have a place for them to play within your organization, but at the same time, unfortunately, the failure rate for them making it seems to be probably a bit higher. At least it seems that way just because there's not as many of them. It's just that simple, right? So let's now take a look at who I feel are some of the top goalie prospects in this draft. We'll hop on. First up, we get Russian goalie Ilya Nabokov. Now, Nabokov may not be the first goalie drafted, but he might be the goalie with the most upside. We'll have to see. Obviously, the Russian-born goalie's a bit older, like I said, 21. He's hovering around 6 feet tall, so he's not a huge goalie. And when somebody is not, considered a bigger goalie like most of them are nowadays, you kind of want to see elite-level athleticism and quickness. And I'm not 100% sold it's there just yet, but at the same time, he's had some really good stretches. He was a KHL playoff MVP, for example. Certainly understands very well how to use the RVH in a really good way that works for him. Very positionally sound, controlled net minor. Just to me has a real solid potential. I'm not sure how long he would remain in Russia before coming over. Obviously, some of these Russian goalies are tough to predict, but the ones that have come over, that you're looking at, your Sorokin, your Shesterkins, etc., they've been really, really good. And if he's anywhere near those levels, then he could be a great late draft steal here for some team. Next, we have Canadian goaltender Carter George, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if George is the first goalie selected in this draft. Like I said, probably late second round, maybe early mid-third round. Obviously plays in the OHL with Owen Sound, represented his country of Canada at the U18s, had a real solid tournament. A really smart, strong goaltender, plays the puck exceptionally well. He's been a very consistent goaltender all season. Never really seems to get rattled. The confidence is always really high. The puck handling skills are simply amazing. His D-men seem to really love him. One of the best puck handlers we've seen come out of the OHL in quite a long time. So the international experience is good for him. Not sure that he's got elite starting goaltender in the NHL level qualities. I'm not sure that there's a lot of that in this draft from that position. But I do think Carter George has the potential to be at least a solid tandem NHL goaltender. Next, we have Finnish goaltender Emil Vinnie. Vinnie's 6'2", around 185 pounds. Got good size, obviously. Great feet, moves well, very well laterally. Great rebound control. Again, another goalie who's not shy to play the puck because of the great feet and the lateral moves. He does cover the bottom of the net extremely well as well. Some think Vinnie might be the best goalie in this draft. Time will tell. I wouldn't be shocked if Vinnie was, like I said, maybe the first goalie picked, but I think that's probably going to be Carter George if I had to predict. But I think between rounds, end of second round, third round, I think we'll probably see Nabokov, George, and Vinnie, in my opinion, probably all get selected. Next, we have Lukas Matecha, Czechia-born goalie, playing in the CHL in Canada, 6'3", 187 pounds. Really strong, athletic goaltender. really calm in the net, like a lot of good goalies need to be. Has extremely quick hands, really good with the skating. Like the edge work is really solid, which also allows him to be a really good butterfly style goaltender. Lateral movements are pretty solid as well. Overall, Matej's got pretty good upside as well. So I really think another guy here who's going to be somewhere around the middle of the draft and have at least an opportunity to be an NHL goaltender. Hard to say just how strong that pro career will be at this point. Next, we have Pavl Moich. Now, this is another guy that I find really intriguing as well. He's only 19. Actually not Russian. He's Belarusian from Belarus. 6'5". Really looks like he's, from what I can see, really positionally sound. Really smart goalie. Strong hands. Really tough to beat clean. Doesn't give up a lot that way. Good lateral movements. Does seem like he needs some work. Obviously, like he's still young, still maturing. But I just think with his size, the way he covers the net, the lateral movements, just the way he plays the position to me, just looks like he has a ton of potential. So I think he could maybe even have a higher upside than some of these other guys. To me, I'd be curious to see where he goes in the draft, but I can see him somewhere amongst the middle of the group here of the goalie prospects we're looking at today. Next, we have Mikhail Yegorov, who's been playing in the USHL. Most recently played for Omaha. He's going to be attending BU this fall, so he'll be in a really good NCAA school. 6'5". He's got the size, excellent athleticism, really strong hockey sense, reads the puck extremely well. Obviously, the one issue with his past season is some inconsistency in his play. Obviously, it looks like he could have a high ceiling, but it's kind of one of those times where he's either really good or just has those bad games, which isn't completely unusual. It happened probably more than he would like it to. But at the end of the day, the save percentage was under 900, so it's hard to rank him any higher. But when you do watch him when he's having a good game, there's lots to like about his game. The team in front of him also this year was kind of brutal, so the save percentage being low is not just a Yegorov thing. This is a team issue as well. Considering where he's heading, his size, I think he's going to get all kinds of great coaching. And I think long term here, he could be a great goalie prospect for a team looking to add depth in their organization. Next up, we have another Finnish goalie with Kim Seran, played in Liga. Has good size and skills, a hybrid goalie. Covers the bottom of the net very well, tends to track the puck very well. Like a lot of good goalies, you need to try to take away his eyes to really have a good chance to beat him because you're not going to beat him clean. If he sees it, he's probably going to stop it. Like I said, a really smart goalie that reads the play well, very patient, doesn't get rattled, nice and calm back there. Overall, just a real solid guy. I'm not sure I see Seran being a starting goalie in the NHL, but I can see him having solid potential to be a backup. Next up, we have another Canadian goaltender with Evan Gardner of the Saskatoon Blades. Another decent sized goalie here, 6'2", 175. Really good, quick feet. Moves very well within the crease side to side as well as in the butterfly position. Butterfly goaltender that does lots of other good things, but he's not just a butterfly goalie. He does utilize the RVH extremely well as well. So certainly lots of good movements that way. You rarely see him beaten clean as well. Gets around the net well. Rebound control is decent. On a pretty good team in Saskatoon. So sometimes you gotta wonder how much, like I said, with some of these goalies, negatively they can impact your stats. Same thing can be on the positive side when your team in front of you is really good. But Gardner seems to have pretty decent upside. I think he'll be a later pick in the draft, but still worth a team taking a shot on for sure. Next, we have an American goalie here, Nicholas Kemp from the U.S. national team program. Obviously appeared with the U.S. at the U18 tournament. Very technically sound goaltender, great footwork as well. He does tend to lack a little bit of composure at times, though, which will get himself into a little bit of trouble and get him scrambling. He's going to be heading to the University of Notre Dame, so he's going to be going to a great school there to get lots of good experience in coaching, which will help his game. But the one thing I like to see out of Kemp more when he matures is just to kind of keep the composure, not get rattled if something goes awry. But overall, lots of talent. And another guy I think will have a good chance to play pro. Hard to say if he'll have starting goalie attributes. Not sure it's going to be that strong, but it could surprise us. At the same time, he could turn out to be a decent backup here. Next, we have Ryerson Leinders. Now, Leinders is a goalie that I know some rank him a little higher than I have him here, but at 6'2", 180 pounds, obviously playing in the CHL for Mississauga in the Ontario Hockey League. But for a guy that's not huge, like he's an average sized goaltender, he does tend to cover the net very well, reads the play well, got really strong hockey sense, seems like he can be pretty patient. And when he needs to be, he can have really quick reflexes to make last second adjustments, obviously, which is a quite a great goalie attribute to have. So overall, to me, like this doesn't a guy that screams superstar. This screams like just a lot of decent, solid goaltending, which to me should have decent odds to turn pro and at least become a tandem or backup goaltender in the NHL. Those past guys that we just talked about are your top 10. I'm going to give you some bonus goalies here as well. We're going to talk about three more, including Dawson Cowan here. Dawson Cowan, obviously another Canadian-born player in the Western Hockey League. His game seems to revolve around speed and his ability to play a strong butterfly-style game. Covers at the bottom of the net well, good lateral movements. At times can make some highlight reel saves, but other times maybe not as strong. And so he needs to work to me on his just his overall consistency and bringing that strong play, which will lead to those highlight reel game saving plays at times more consistently. So Cowan to me is a player who's not a given that he gets drafted, but at the same time could be a great late pickup and could be a solid find here down the road. Next, we have Kirill Zarubin, a 6'4", 180-pound Russian goalie. Now, he is signed to stay in Russia for another year or so, so we'll probably be looking at 25 or 26 coming to North America. But he's a very athletic goalie, covers the net very well, has a great glove hand, certainly not as strong on the blocker side, good rebound control. If he gets into a situation exploding side to side, the quickness is certainly very much evident there. Sometimes when you get into a situation where the rebound control wasn't where it needs to be, you can see him scrambling, getting back, repositioned quickly, and kind of fighting through some plays. So he has that ability to do that as well. To me, like I think the one thing that might just kind of scare teams off a little bit here is the fact that he will stay in Russia for a few more years. But again, same thing could be said for some of these other goalies that are ranked ahead of him here. But Zarubin, 6'4" athletic goalie, has some decent potential for sure. And last but certainly not least, we have Marcus Gildoff. Now, the Athletics' Corey Proman is super high on this guy. He has him ranked way higher than most other draft ranking services or many other people that are, somewhat, into the prospect coverage here. Like I have been. Obviously, I don't consider myself a prospect expert, but I try to stay up to date with everything. And Gildoff to me is a player that has potential. It's kind of a little bit raw. He's 6'6" and moves extremely well for his size. That alone is something a lot of teams are going to like. He's got strong hockey sense. He is somewhat technically sound as well. Obviously, like he's ranked number 10 amongst European goalies on the NHL Central Scouting. So for Corey Proman to put him right at the top of his list does seem a little bit crazy, but he says he was the best goalie in Sweden's junior ranks this past year, and you can see him going, all the way to the NHL. It reminds him a bit of Eric Portillo at the same age. Not projecting him to be a starter at the NHL level, but more of a tandem type 1A, 1B. And thinks he has a real future in the NHL. But like to me, it's just he's a player that's going to need some work. He's going to need to refine a lot of aspects of his game. But the athleticism, the size, and the smarts are there. So if he gets the right coaching, he could certainly develop into something for sure. So those are some of your top goalie prospects here, in my opinion, for the 2024 NHL draft. Let me know what you think on some of these players, where you think they might go into the draft, or what you think their ceiling is. I'm not sure there's a lot of these guys are going to be starting goaltenders. There very well could be a handful of them at most, but a lot of these guys will be, either backups or number threes, or, guys that probably all play pro to some degree, but hard to say how many of them, actually have, any kind of sustained success throughout their careers at the highest level. We'll see. But let me know your thoughts on that down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, of course, make sure you subscribe, stick around. Plenty more talk and coverage on the 2024 NHL draft, as well as all the latest news and rumors around the entire league. Thanks very much for watching. I'll catch you next time.